Well, let's begin positive with a very touching tribute by David Gordon Green to William Friedkin, who recently passed. For those who don't know, he directed The Exorcist, as well as many other seminal films, but probably on horror, he's going to have a very lasting impact.
And I'm quoting, "William Friedkin was an inspiration to me. I am saddened that our community lost a brilliant artist. The Exorcist is one of the finest films ever made, along with The French Connection, Sorcerer, and so many others. His bold and visionary work will influence filmmakers forever."
Now, it's still a little suspicious because while filming The Exorcist, he didn't reach out to Friedkin. And if you know Friedkin, he's pretty easy to get in contact with. He has tons of interviews with other directors. Feels a little late in the game to express gratitude, but there we are. Now, in terms of The Exorcist Believer, now we have a few more updates. It is officially rated R, although I don't think that really matters. You can do very, very strong horror with PG-13. Also, how the ratings make sense have changed over time. So, you gotta be careful that it needed an R rating, but it has an R rating, and it will officially be just over 2 hours. Good news, bad news, don't know. And the sequel is entitled Deceiver, so they've already gone to work on the sequel to this film. And again, technically, Green is only committed to this film, but he wants to direct the whole trilogy, and we're gonna have to wait and see on that one. And then we get into some very negative news with Demeter, which I only recently found out about. I think, like most people, I'm not clear what this is, but apparently it's a Dracula vampire movie. Well, whatever it is, it did not perform very well. It did very poorly against Oppenheimer and Barbie. That's no surprise, but even against the Meg and Ninja Turtles and other competitors, it did very, very poorly. It barely made $7 million, which, given the $45 million budget, is very devastating. It'll be interesting if it can at least break even, but at this point, that's highly unlikely. I've seen parts of the film. I have to say I'm not very impressed, but again, I do think it's the right idea for Universal to do these kind of mid-budget films, but I don't know, Demeter seems like a big misstep. And finally, more Green news. For those who don't know, Green is technically doing Hellraiser as well as Exorcist, and I'd like to report some progress, and I did a video a while ago, and it's where we were before. Nothing appears to be happening at all. There's no movement on Hellraiser, and to some extent I think that's a good thing. I'm not a big Green fan at the moment, but there are other people involved, and presumably the strike is preventing more action. However, he's not the only party involved, and it's been a couple years. This was announced years ago that HBO would do their version. If you're a little confused, the Hulu version is its own continuity, but HBO also has the rights to Hellraiser, and Clive Barker is supposed to be involved. But thus far, nothing is happening, and you might think, well, Green is just busy with his project with Exorcist. However, that can't be right, because there's some evidence he was working on Exorcist while doing Halloween Ends. He said he wasn't doing that, but there's some conflicting testimony with Ellen Burstyn, and she says, no, they filmed her scenes time-wise while Halloween Ends was happening. And Green said he wasn't going to do that. He was only going to concentrate on one project. So apparently he can do simultaneous projects, but for whatever reason, Hellraiser is not going anywhere. And there we are. So some interesting updates in the world of horror. Mostly negative news, but some positive news as well.